Hello, I am Helen Türk from the University of Tartu, Estonia. In my talk, I will tell you about our research on temporal patterns of geminates in Inari Saami trisyllabic words. The research has been done by me and my colleagues Pärtel Lippus, Karl Pajusalu, and Pire Teras. Our focus is on the three-way consonantal quantity distinction in Inari Saami language. Inari Saami is one of 10 Saami languages, and it is spoken in northern Finland by about 300 speakers. And in a few moments, I will also show you a map of Inari Saami language area, but first let me introduce you to the outline of my talk. For starters, I will give you a brief introduction and bring out the research questions that we had. Then I will talk about the data and methods we used in our study, and after this, I will present the results. And finally, conclusions. So let's get going. When we talk about ternary length distinctions, it is more common to find quantity distinctions on vowels. The topic of our research is particularly interesting since three-way consonantal quantity systems are rare in words languages. Knowingly, actually, those systems only exist in Finno-Ugric languages, for example in Estonian, Livonian, and some Saami languages, including Inari Saami. And in these languages, consonants could be described as short, long, or overlong, and referred to as quantity 1, quantity 2, and quantity 3. The domain of quantity is a trisyllabic foot, where consonantal quantity is realized at the boundary of primary stressed and the following unstressed syllable. So let us now move on to Inari Saami language. Here in this map, you can see the language area. On the right, on the left hand, you can see a map of Finland, and in the box there is Inari Saami language area. And on the right hand, the area is zoomed in some more. There you can see Lake Inari and the 5 villages where Inari Saami is spoken. The speakers of our study come from the 2 villages that are marked with triangles. Quantity in Inari Saami. Feet in Inari Saami are left-headed, and there is word initial primary stress. And as already said before, Inari Saami has ternary distinction in consonant quantity. In our research, we used the terms half-long and long geminates or consonant clusters respectively for quantity 2 and quantity 3. So there are short consonants, half-long and long geminates, and consonant clusters. And on this slide, you can also see some examples. But in our research right now on trisyllabic words, we focus on geminates, not on consonant clusters. And also, unlike consonants, the vowels in stressed syllables are either short or long. In addition, there are also short and long diphthongs in stressed syllables. In unstressed syllables, there are only phonologically short vowels. Now that you have some background, I will introduce you to our research questions. In this study, we focus on temporal patterns of quantity in Inari Saami trisyllabic words. So first, we were interested in whether and how the three-way consonantal quantity distinction is manifested at the boundary of S1 and S2 in trisyllabic words. And here by S1 and S2, I mean the first and the second syllable of a word. Then, how does the third syllable affect temporal patterns within the first 2 syllables, whether adding the third syllable changes something? And finally, how is consonantal quantity manifested at the boundary of S2 and S3 of trisyllabic words? So those are the research questions. Most studies on three-way length distinctions actually focus on disyllabic words. There are some studies on Inari Saami where this matter has been dealt with, also one of our own, and studies on Estonian that actually has quantity distinction for both vowels and consonants. But considerably less is found on the three-way quantity distinction in longer words. In Estonian quantity system, longer words are expected to function similarly to disyllabic ones, but only few studies verify this empirically. There is one study by Ilse Lehiste who investigated quantity distinction in trisyllabic words, but in the case of Inari Saami, our study will now fill in the gap. The data of our study is stored in Inari Saami prosody corpus that we have been annotating in the course of our research. It includes read test sentences from 4 elderly male speakers. And test sentences contain test words with different word structures that you can see in table 1 here. The first 3 word structures differ in the length of a consonant at the boundary of the first and second syllable. First one has a short consonant, second one has a half-long geminate, and the third one has a long geminate between S1 and S2, and consonant between S2 and S3 is always short. The other 2 word structures have a short consonant or a half-long geminate at the boundary of the first and second syllable, and a geminate at the boundary of second and third syllable, and all the vowels are phonologically short in all of the word structures. Here you can also see some carrier sentences, and the test words are marked in bold. So what did we do with our data? We measured the duration of each segment in Pärtel and ran mixed effects models on these durations in R. We had dependent variables, log-scale durations of intervocalic consonants, C2 and C3, and the surrounding vowels, V1, V2, and V3. And then we had explanatory variables, which were C2 length and C3 length with different levels. So now I will continue with the results and discussion part of the talk. In this chart, you can see the average durations for each segment in all of the 5 word structures, and duration in milliseconds is on the x-axis. So let us look at the consonants at the boundary of S1 and S2 first. What you can see here is that when consonantal quantity increases, the duration of the consonant also increases. So there is nice 3-way distinction in these words. Also note that V1 duration is not affected by the quantity of the following consonant, but V2 duration is, it shortens when consonantal quantity increases, and it's only 71 milliseconds after a long geminate. The bottom 2 word structures, the duration of C2 varies between speakers in words with a geminate in C3 position. Some realize C2 as a short consonant and some as a half-long geminate. And the average durations of vowels surrounding C2 are with similar durations. The durations of consonants between S2 and S3 show a 2-way distinction, with C3 as a short consonant or a long geminate. And V3 is always quite short in all of the word structures. In this box plot, once again, you can see the duration of C2 and C3 in the 5 word structures, C2 in the upper panel and C3 in the lower panel. As already you saw before, there is 3-way distinction in C2 duration in the first 3 word structures, those yellow ones here. And as can be seen from the lower panel, the median duration for a short C3 is around 100 milliseconds in the first 3 word structures. But when C3 is a geminate, C3 duration between S2 and S3 is around 220 milliseconds, which is similar to the duration of a long geminate between S1 and S2, as this one here. So what can we say about the quantity distinction at the boundary of S1 and S2 of trisyllabic words? As we saw, there was a clear 3-way consonantal quantity distinction at the boundary of S1 and S2, and V1 duration was not affected by C2 quantity, whereas V2 duration was affected by C2 quantity, as it decreased when C2 quantity increased. And comparing these results with previous results on 3-way consonantal quantity distinction in disyllabic words shows similar patterns. However, there are some minor differences. Long geminates in trisyllabic words are shorter than in disyllabic words, and in trisyllabic words only V2 is affected by C2 length, whereas in disyllabic words both V1 and V2 shorten when C2 quantity increases. At the boundary of the second and third syllable, we see a binary distinction with short consonants and long geminates, and plosives belong to quantity 3 category, as we saw that the duration of geminates at the boundary of S2 and S3 was similar to long geminates at the boundary of S1 and S2. And we can compare those results to Estonian. Ilse Lehiste has studied quantity distinction in trisyllabic words, and she has said that the duration of geminates at the boundary of S2 and S3 is ambiguously long, and geminate plosives can be assigned to quantity 2 category. In the case of Inari Saami, our results showed that geminate plosives can be assigned to quantity 3 category. So as to conclude, there is a three-way distinction of consonants at the boundary of S1 and S2, and consonants can be described as singletons, half-long, and long geminates. And their V2 shortens when C2 quantity increases. And also there are similar patterns in diasyllabic words. At the boundary of S2 and S3, there is two-way distinction. And the duration of geminates there corresponds to the duration of quantity 3 geminates between S1 and S2. So at the boundary of S2 and S3, consonants can be either short or long. So that is all from me. Here are also some references that I used in the presentation, and of course you can find out more from our paper. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact any of us. Thank you.